Angeles. Chilly these days. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Joy Taylor is joining me today. You know, my colors even match the OKC uniform.
Yeah,
Joy. So do yours.
Yeah, kind of. We coordinate a little bit. It's sweater weather, Colin.
It is.
I'm surprised you don't have a sweater on.
I know my family's all sick. I can't get out of the house fast enough.
I know you sound whiny, but it was legitimately cold this morning.
It was 59 degrees. It's outrageous.
I mean, I wore my puffy coat.
God, listen to us. We're just obnoxious.
We are.
It is great to have you. It's still a holiday for a lot of people. I saw the roads when I drove in this morning a little busier. So if you did not see this game last night, Paul George was such a big deal last night in Los Angeles. Remember, he was going to be a Laker and decided, nah, he scored 37. They were booing him. It was awesome. And this was a high point for Paul George in the season. He came to L.A., it's where he's from. He dropped 37. He was the best player on the floor. And congratulations. He was so important. They were booing him because he didn't come to the Lakers. And congratulations for that gigantic win in the first week of January. Slow clap for that. Paul George 2 years ago said to his GM in Indianapolis, Kevin Pritchard, pretty smart guy, he said, I want out. I want to go to Los Angeles, where I'm from. And so Kevin Pritchard did the best thing he could for Indianapolis, engineered a trade with Oklahoma City, sent him there, and Paul George still said, I want to be a Laker. And so everybody waited for him to be a Laker, and all of a sudden he was going to be a Laker, and about a week before, LeBron signs with the Lakers, and within a day, Paul George suddenly didn't want to be a Laker. The story's all dried up. And he chose Oklahoma City. Last night, it's going to be one of his 5 big nights of the year. First week of January at L.A. Booty's so important. Won the game over the LeBron-less Lakers. I never feel sympathy for people who have options in life and choose the wrong one. I feel sympathy for people who, because of their circumstances, don't have options. Paul George chose Oklahoma City. Paul George chose Russell Westbrook and LeBron James, where you win titles, you get on television, you'd be in the Western Conference Finals with LeBron, you'd be on television in late May and June, you'd get major endorsements. Dropping 37 would not be a big deal in the first week of January. Because LeBron doesn't care about Januaries. Look it up. It's always his worst month. He goes into sort of a pre-All-Star game, pre-trading deadline malaise. He gets rest. He doesn't play well. His teams don't play particularly well. Look it up. Guys like Harden, Paul George, Westbrook, Kawhi, man, they are awesome in January. They stack the numbers. They climb in the standings. Kawhi's going to have another big one tonight. He's going back to play the Spurs. He left the Spurs. And Paul George last night, he was big in L.A. In your face, L.A. I'm the man. First week of January. There are players in the NBA I feel sympathy for. Anthony Davis is one. Anthony Davis is going to be a Laker. It's going to take a few months. Maybe it's going to take a year, but he'll be a Laker. He gets drafted by a city that probably shouldn't have a team. And then the way the NBA sort of rigs it and sets it up, you have to sign your first big extension with your team to make the real money. And then you start losing 50 games a year, and you get tired of it because your organization can't get you any good players. And then eventually you're the bad guy because you leave because you have a mediocre owner, a mediocre GM, an often fired coach, and no good players around you. That I feel bad for. Paul George, he chose last night. That's what he chose. He chose last night. Because Paul George knows Westbrook is now an aging point guard who can't shoot. And when I say can't shoot, he can't shoot free throws. Westbrook's free throw percentage last 3 years has gone from 80, 75 to 64. So this team has no shot in the playoffs to do anything. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that think Paul George won by staying in Oklahoma City. Rob Parker was on our show yesterday. He thinks Paul George is showing LeBron a thing or two.
So when he decided that, okay, he wasn't coming, LeBron comes to L.A., he's from Palmdale, not that far from here, right? He decides, okay, he could come back. If they had him right now, they would be viable right now this year to have a shot in the Western Conference right now. He's the king killer. He will be the reason the Lakers do not win a championship during the LeBron years.
I look at it just the opposite, is that Paul George, by not joining LeBron and choosing Westbrook over LeBron, guaranteed he will never be in the finals. And he could have been with LeBron, but instead LeBron now will go to his second or third option named Anthony Davis, who is obviously a better player than Paul George, and he will, over time, end up in finals and win one, maybe two, probably one. I just see this differently than everybody else. When Paul George chose not to join LeBron, it killed Paul George's chances of not making the finals. It just forced Magic and LeBron to go to option two. And what do you know? Option two, Anthony Davis, is a significantly better player and will probably join the Lakers, I'm told, sometime in the next year or earlier. All right, let's shift to this. There's 4 playoff games this weekend. Top of next hour, Greg Cosell. You can't miss this. He's terrific. Greg Cosell, NFL Films, almost 40 years, will break down what to look for this weekend in these 4 huge playoff games. Now, the first thing I do every week is I look at the lines from Vegas, and then I get ready for Blazing 5. And I pick the 4 or 5 games I like. But I don't do Blazing 5 for the playoffs. And the reason is because the reason Blazing 5 works is because I have 15, 16 games to choose from, and I can choose just 5. But when you only have 4 games, I looked at the lines this weekend, and there's 4 games, and there's only one team I really like. There's only one game I would bet if I was going to bet football this weekend. And I know I'm from Seattle, but you know that's never cared. I don't care about that stuff. My job is to be honest, not to support my birthplace. I like the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are a slight favorite, 1.5. That's what Vegas says, over the Seattle Seahawks. And I think Dallas is going to win the game. That would be the game I would bet. That's the game I feel strongly about. Now, first of all, it's obvious. Dallas has become a couple of different teams. There is the Dallas Cowboys offense without Amari, and then there is the Dallas Cowboys offense with Amari, and it's not real hard to figure out. It's way better. I'll put them on the screen for our FS1 viewers. This is a completely different offense post-Amari Cooper. Now, fans look at teams. This is what fans do. They tend to look at teams just one record. We're 12-4. Coaches and GMs do not look at teams that way. They look at teams in quadrants and quarters. For instance, Kansas City's 12-4. Woo! They're 3-3 in their last 6, and 2 of those 3 wins are over the Raiders and a home win in overtime. New England is why I like Dallas. If you look at Dallas like a general manager or a coach would look at Dallas, they should be favored here. Let's look at the first quarter of the season for Dallas. They were 2-2. There was no Amari Cooper. You can see their offense. It just wasn't. Yeah, I mean they were just not. They were 2-2, and they were struggling with everybody. They struggled with the Giants. They couldn't score against the Seahawks. They shouldn't have beat the Lions. They weren't very good. And then the second 4 games, the next quadrant, they were 1-3. They had Amari for just 1 game, and you can see the offense there. It's still not very good, right? That's not very good. And let's go to the third quadrant. Oh, they're 4-0. Oh, no, holy moly, is scoring 31 there and 27 there. Oh, they beat the Saints. And then look at the last 4. They had a dog against Tennessee. Once again, though, or against Indianapolis, which was very predictable, by the way, on the road, off hugely emotional games. Indianapolis at home was absolutely desperate, had to win every week. But you can see the points, 29 and 36 and 27, and this is how you look at teams. This is how general managers look at teams. They do not look at teams and go, we're 12-4. They ask, what are we now? What the Cowboys are now is the most athletic NFL team defensively in the front 7. What the Cowboys are now is rested. Zeke didn't play. Zach Martin, a great offensive lineman, didn't play. What the Cowboys are right now is at home. What the Cowboys are right now is a bona fide real offense with a star receiver and a star back and a rested above-average offensive line playing at home where they're very good, especially if Zeke can get over 100 yards. Dallas has better players this weekend. Seattle is still in somewhat of a rebuilding mode. So there's 4 games this weekend, and they're all coin flips, and I don't feel strongly about any of them. I mean, I think the Colts will win. I think the Chargers second time around will win. But Dallas over Seattle, that one I like. Not doing a Blazing 5 this week. That one I like. Dallas over Seattle by about a touchdown. 45 minutes from now, Greg Cosell, NFL Films over 3 decades, has the kind of information, whether you play fantasy, whether you bet, or whether you just love football, that is, you have to have it. There's no other way around it. You have to have it. Coming up next, Michael Jordan, 10 years ago, was asked who the greatest player was. He went, shucks, I don't know. And LeBron James last